Hey folks, this is Wistful Deal here, and welcome back to the channel. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on the film Hoppers, the newest film of that Pixar has released so far. And the next film that Pixar is going to release is Toy Story 5. Yay! I'm so freaking excited for that shit. I'm probably gonna see it anyway, even though I'm really not excited to go see it, like, at all. I was really disappointed with Toy Story 4, honestly. I really feel like they should have left it at Toy Story 3 or whatever, but I overall digress. So, let's get one thing straight and out of the way. So, the reason you folks may be seeing this video again all of a sudden and wondering what happened to the original video, or did I make a video beforehand? So, the answer is yes, I did make a video beforehand talking about Hoppers, and this is what my video is mainly going to be, my take on the film Hoppers, and I went and saw, and, because I was curious on it, because after hearing from some YouTubers that I watch, that they really liked it, and some, you know, YouTubers and word of mouth that it's actually pretty good, I figured to go ahead and give it a shot. So, the main reason why I ended up deleting the original video is that I didn't really like how I was in that video. I wasn't like mean or cruel or anything, but I felt like I could have done a much better job, in that video and just be more into detail and everything. And since I didn't really like how I was in that video, and I felt like I did kind of a crappy job, I just ultimately decided to delete that video and to have this video in place instead. So in case you're wondering why there's like suddenly, two notifications of the same thing on Discord or whatever, that's to kind of clear up the confusion, clear up the weird misstep that I made there. So anyway, so long story short, this is gonna be a redo of the original video here because I ended up not liking it. So we got this video instead. So that's to answer, your folks' questions or whatever, or to clarify some things. But anyway, earlier this week I went and saw Hoppers, like I said, after hearing from some YouTubers that they ended up liking it and that it was actually pretty good to them. So that really caught my mind, honestly, because ideally I wasn't really interested in seeing Hoppers, truth be told. Seeing some of the trailers or whatever was like, okay, I guess, I could really kind of give or take on it. It didn't look bad to me, but it just looked like not something that I would go really out of my way just to go and see. But anyway, but after hearing from some YouTubers that I watch that they say that they really liked it and that it was pretty good, I figured, you know what, let's actually give this a shot, and see, because I rarely go to the films anymore, or at least there's not much movies and I'm actually really interested in to go see, because it's just movies just aren't interesting to me as much as they used to be. But anyway, so I went and saw it, and honestly, it was pretty damn good. I personally really liked it, honestly. It was very good. I liked the premise of it. The jokes in this were pretty good. They didn't make me like laugh, but they did give me a couple good chuckles, which I really liked. The animation, of course, is pretty good. The story is, fine. You could give or take on that. The writing definitely could have been better, I felt. So let's go ahead and dip our toes into spoilers here, because once I really get into spoilers and actually kind of explain everything, then you folks may kind of get it. So in case you haven't seen the film, I would say if you want to, you can go ahead and go. It's kind of hard for me to say, honestly, because I don't know your taste as much as mine, and vice versa. So yeah, I personally overall liked the film. The film, it was pretty good. So what this film is about here. So it's about this 19-year-old college student named Mabel, and she's a complete animal lover. Like, she loves animals, she loves wildlife, and I really liked the beginning of this because it kind of shows us who she is as a character, and she has a grandma, and I really like the grandma. You'll see what I'm going with this here, but I really liked the grandma a lot because she's kind of the the gentle mentor per se, whatever, of our main protagonist here. And there was this one scene at the beginning that I really liked, and I just couldn't help but smile, and why it kind of hit me a lot in the feels, honestly. I didn't like cry, but it definitely, got to me a bit because there's a scene in the beginning, of the film or whatever, where she's a little girl and she's, because the whole point is that she's a rebellion, right? She's like a complete rebel. She wants to keep, the animals safe, and she wants it to be fair game for everyone. Just humans, animals. She wants it to be fair for everyone. And so then there's this scene in the beginning where her grandma takes her over to like this pond, and they both sit on this rock, and she goes, just listen in, just stop and listen to everything, and notice like the small details and stuff. And I really liked that, how it showed like the movement of the water, the freaking leaves blowing in the wind. I really liked that, and how you can hear the sounds and everything. I personally really liked that because it gives our main character Mabel, the I guess not really the motivation, but kind of even more of the strive of of like protecting all of the animals and everything. It does have a little bit. It does have an Avatar kind of knockoff thing. I know some folks are gonna say that it's a complete utter knockoff, but I don't feel like it's like a complete rip off. It's just more of like they take a sample of something and put it in. The jokes are pretty good. I don't know if I said that or not, but the jokes are pretty good. There's this cute scene that I liked. Well, because after Mabel, right, she discovers what's really going on. Because the whole premise is that there's this computer machine or whatever that's called a hop or whatever, and so you put like this helmet on or some shit, and it transfers your consciousness into a robotic animal body. In this case, a robotic beaver. That stands on this circle platform thing, kind of like Disney Infinity in some case, where you just have a plastic toy in a sense, and you kind of put it on, and how it would come to life on the TV. This was kind of somewhat similar in some case, with that analogy. And so, legit, Mabel's like, oh, so it's just like Avatar. And the professor lady's like, this is nothing like Avatar. And I'm like, yeah, it is. It's legit like Avatar, but except blue alien people that are like 8, 9 feet tall, and instead of a clone or whatever, it's legit. You know, it is just like Avatar. I haven't seen Avatar in like a good ass minute or whatever. There's like 3 films, and there's like a fourth one coming out or whatever. I can't really keep up. I only saw the original, and I'm talking back in like 2008 or 9. When I saw Avatar, and I could really kind of give or take on that, honestly. you know but it is just exactly like Avatar, but with its own furry spin and everything. And there's one interesting detail actually that I did really like, honestly, is that when Mabel, our character here, right, when she gets transported into this robotic beaver, right, and this is more like an android, like a Detroit Become Human type deal in a sense. Well, it's like almost human, in some every way, but if you look at it extremely closely enough, you can tell that it's like a robot in some sense, but kind of smaller. Well, it looks nearly exactly human, but until you're looking for that specific point, whatever, then otherwise you don't really tell the difference, that kind of realistic thing, whatever. So anyway, so she becomes, a beaver, escapes the lab or whatever, and she goes to the pond because the whole point is that she's trying to she's trying to save the pond, and the reason that she wants to save the pond, and she's doing what she can to protect the pond or whatever, is to not just have the animals live there, but to not have the male build his or rather finish his highway build over to you know the main city, whatever. There's this male character, this male character literally named Jerry. He kind of looks like Jerry from Rick and Morty, honestly, and I'll get to him in a bit. But anyway, he's kind of an antagonist. But anyway, so she's doing the best that she can to stop and not have the male Jerry finish up his highway build to this part of the park, so that the animals can not only live there and thrive there and everything, but so that the humans in some sense won't just keep taking up more and more room. It is kind of an environmental message in some way, to some extent, honestly. And I personally overall liked the film. It gets pretty damn wacky by the end. There's this like little caterpillar that becomes a butterfly, and the caterpillar actually becomes the main actual antagonist villain. And this film's kind of nuts and kind of off the walls, honestly. And I personally thought, honestly, that it was going to be the mayor that was going to be the main villain, and I'm so glad that he wasn't. I was so worried when he was first introduced and everything, because that's a thing, right? This male named Jerry, he's like, this rich male and everything, and I was super worried that he was just going to be another money hungry, I don't give a shit about nature, well, I don't give a literal damn, like, I'm going to do, like, he kind of is, but I'm so glad he didn't like stick to his guns, that like he became the typical 9,000 villain of like selfish, only for himself or their self or whatever. They're gonna do whatever the frick they want and some shit, but I'm so damn glad that he didn't become like a hungry Mr. Krabs, money, 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 type villain, type guy, because he ended up having some kind of redemption, in some way, and so I'm really glad that they didn't take Jerry in that route, and I was really worried on that. But the actual, what ends up being the villain is honestly just kind of off the walls and crazy. I don't want to get too much into it or whatever, but like he ends up, this caterpillar, ends up, taking control of the of animals, because there's like, different leaders and stuff. So he becomes like the main leader, I guess, or whatever. And so now it becomes a complete divide. And so now they control or rather threaten the humans to build a freaking robot, which did kind of look like, the Terminator in some sense, like the Terminators from Skynet or whatever, but kind of silly. Just one single bot, and he was completely utterly mad and stuff. And honestly, I found him kind of humorous and stuff, and the way he goes to the way his death is just comedic. Honestly, there's a lot of good comedic stuff in this film. There is one kind of downside to Mabel though, our main character here, and that's that because at the start of the film, right, she's very much a rebellion. She's very pro animals, pro wildlife, pro nature, and everything. And you can see the passion in her, and I really liked that, especially with her grandmother and everything, because she has a huge passion, with animals, and and rightfully so. But sadly, during around like the ending point and stuff, she kind of doesn't really have anything. I guess. I mean, she's still kind of pro animal, but she's more so of I don't know how to exactly say it. She kind of ends up like, I don't know. She ends up losing like that pro animal type deal, but she does kind of grow as a character. I'm trying to think. She kind of grows, but not really too much. In some way, I did like Jerry's redemption. Oh yeah, that's one other thing that I do want to lastly talk about here that I just had to talk about. And this honestly, this was the most throwback. Like this was the one that honestly took me out of the movie the most because it is so ridiculous. So all of these animals, right? And so finally, when the main villain, this caterpillar butterfly, calls out the apex predator, it's this female shark, right? But here's the thing. There's like these gooses or geese or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a bird expert or some shit. But there's like these different seagulls or something, right? That lift up the shark, and the shark doesn't just stay there for like a minute if it comes back down or whatever. No, no. She freaking stays there for like 5, 6 minutes because they're all trying to kill Jerry. And it's just utterly nuts with this, honestly, because it's like, how can that work exactly? I know this is a kid's film at the end of the day and everything, but like, how the frick can a shark with like seagulls that are carrying it make it practically fly and just stay up, stay in the air for like 5 minutes? Like that's not realistic. Like, we were going a bit nuts before with, the talking animals and stuff, but it still made sense, and everything. And that's one detail that I do want to point out as well that I did really like and notice now that I think on it, is that whenever we're in the animal's perspective, they have like normal eyes per se. Like they have like the white part of it and everything along with the pupils. But yet when we cut back to the humanoid side or the human side of things, they have, BB eyes. And not only that, the words that, they're saying and that we can understand when it's through their view, whenever it cuts back to the human view, it just sounds like, like what an animal would sound, just like a whole different perspective on that. And I also really liked that. I know this film may not film this video. I know this video may seem kind of all over the place and everything. I'm not the greatest with talking or best describing things, but overall, I really liked Hoppers personally. I felt like it was honestly an overall good movie. It took some turns that were surprising on me. The animation is pretty damn good, and I personally really liked it. And like I said, I wasn't really gonna go see this film because I was like, okay, I could give or take on it. But after seeing it, I'm kind of surprised, honestly. You know, the beats are pretty good and everything. There's this one scene that did hit me, a little bit, where it showed Mabel crying, sad or whatever, cause she just wants to do, the right thing, and she just wants to save the animals and everything, and how, she has a moment where because there's this Beaver King, and he's super damn optimistic, too optimistic, in fact. Well, he's like, we all have our share, we all have our rules and everything, and and that's just that. He's very optimistic and everything. Too, like I said, too optimistic, and Mabel kind of comes in and but anyway, overall, I honestly, I like this film. This film, it's pretty good. It's not the best film. It's not like, a film I don't think that's gonna make Pixar come back or whatever, or rather fix Pixar per se. But I do feel like this film ultimately is a step in the right direction. The jokes are pretty good, they're always subtle. There's like 1 to 2 jokes that are like, in your face or annoying, especially with the trailers with all the animals screaming, and that's mainly them trying to describe what that loud noise was or whatever. That's a little irritating, but overall, this film, it was pretty decent. I overall liked it. Again, it's not the best. I don't think it's gonna bring Pixar completely back, But I do feel like ultimately it is a step in the right direction for Pixar, and everything. And I honestly feel like, and I do wish personally that they do still do more original ideas like this instead of freaking Toy Story 5, like, and Incredibles 3, and some other film, maybe Cars 4 or whatever. Like at some point, you just need to let some stories die. You really do, especially with Toy Story. But I overall digress. Did you folks see Hoppers? What did you folks think of it? I personally overall liked it. It was pretty good. Other than suspending my disbelief at times, especially with the freaking flying shark, like there's no goddamn way. There's just no way. But anyway, did you folks see Hoppers? What did you folks think of it? I personally overall liked it. But anyway, folks, that's basically all I have to say and talk about in this video here. So with all of that being said and out of the way, excuse me, thank you folks all so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you folks don't miss out on a future video or post I make in the future. And that you can always be kept up to date with the channel here and everything. And lastly, if you folks have any requests or suggestions that you want me to go ahead and do, feel free to tell me down in the comments below. But anyway, folks, thank you all so much for watching. So with all of that being said and out of the way, be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, hit subscribe for more. And I will see you all sooner or later. Bye-bye, everyone.